In the course of my experimentation, I've decided to add to my supplementation program boron, and of course I'm using lemon water to drink the water because I have a hard time drinking water as it is, and so this is freeze-dried lemon juice crystals. I still make use of potassium iodide whenever I feel the need, or even for that matter, iodoral, in case I have a queasy stomach. And B-complex to make sure I get B12 since I'm vegan most of the time, and cayenne pepper capsules to make sure I properly utilize my digestive system, utilizes my nutrients such as the silver that I absorb through my skin when I take a bath. So now when I make the silver hydroperoxide with horse-grade MSM, I'm going to add an additional step. I'm going to add hydrogen peroxide twice, both before I add the MSM and afterwards. And it's only because the MSM is not fully saturated with oxygen that I would do this. And I want to make sure that the horse-grade MSM, because it's deficient in oxygen, does not pull oxygen out of the colloidal silver before I get a chance to add oxygen in the form of hydrogen peroxide. So I don't want to predispose. In other words, I'm guessing that some of the oxygen might be stolen from the horse-grade MSM as it is, and to react with the colloidal silver because it wants to react. It's a metal, and the MSM has oxygen, and that'll pull oxygen out of the MSM and make things worse than they already are, by turning the MSM into DMSO, and I've got a plastic container with plastic tubing. Oops. So I never found that to be the case with human-grade MSM, but I was using a glass flask to make this stuff. I wasn't using plastic. So this might be the right way to do it all the way around, because of the risk of doing things, of doing it in plastic. So it was a good way to learn this lesson. So I make the colloidal silver, add hydrogen peroxide to fully react with the colloidal silver to turn it into silver hydroperoxide, take portions of it out and mix it in a mixing container with MSM, put it back in, and then add hydrogen peroxide again, and then that should finish it. There's one other update, and that is adding cayenne pepper to the bath and adding hydrogen peroxide to the bath. In other words, usually in the past, when I first started out using hydrogen peroxide, I just added 8 ounces to the bath, and I would add other mineral salts because I didn't know what I was doing. Now I don't bother doing that. I'm very specific about what I add, and I don't just add anything. But there's value to adding extra hydrogen peroxide because of the extra oxygenation. And this is hard water. So in a sense, I suppose you could say I'm prepping the tap water by putting hydrogen peroxide in it. So I'm adding oxygen to everything, to oxygenate everything, but each item has to be dealt with separately. And you can't just assume, well, it'll borrow it from something else. I don't want it to borrow oxygen from something else because it'll deplete the overall oxygen level. So because of the hardness of the water and possible chemicals and pathogens and the sweat on my body, I want to add extra hydrogen peroxide to the bath for an extra margin of safety. So right now what I did was I put in 8 ounces of hydrogen peroxide, 35% strength, food grade, into the bath. Then I added 1.5 gallons of hydrogen peroxide, with 1.5 gallons of silver hydroperoxide with MSM, horse grade MSM. And then I added cayenne pepper. And I just used cheap cayenne pepper from the market that's very stale. When I replace this, I'll get fresher stuff. Obviously, it'll be more potent and more vital and alive. Now, cayenne pepper has vitamin C in it, but it's natural vitamin C. It's the right kind of vitamin C. And it also has provitamin A, carotene. So it's a good thing, and it's traditionally used in conjunction with silver because for some reason it helps the body utilize the stuff. Well, hydrogen peroxide helps in its own way too. And I used to think they're antagonistic, or maybe I should be a purist and only use one or the other, but not both. I'm wrong. Both is good. I just have to react the hydrogen peroxide with the silver all by itself and make sure it's fully oxidized before I start adding other ingredients like MSM and cayenne pepper. But I also pre-treat the tap water with its own batch of hydrogen peroxide in addition to whatever hydrogen peroxide I use to interface with the horse-grade MSM to bring its oxygen level up, and hydrogen peroxide added in addition to everything else to the colloidal silver to oxidize, fully oxidize that silver and turn it into ionic silver hydroperoxide. So it's a thoroughness that I'm pointing out in this video, and in addition to which adding cayenne pepper is a good idea because it helps the body metabolize silver. And since the point of entry of this, in this case of the silver, is through the skin, the cayenne pepper has to be there in the same place, so that it's there suffusing through the skin along with the silver to complement it, to complement the silver. It can't come from a different direction, like through the mouth, and make up the difference. It has to be where you want it, where the silver is, excuse me. The cayenne pepper has to be where the silver is. So they don't react. We're not reacting the two together, but they do have to be in association with each other at the same time for the silver to be properly utilized. So that's it for this update, and I think it's an important update because of various factors. Namely, we have to utilize silver, so we use cayenne pepper to help us do that. And when we make silver hydroperoxide with cheap horse-grade MSM, we have to add an additional step of hydrogen peroxide to make sure that the whole batch is fully suffused with oxygen and there's no depletion whatsoever from the silver, from the water, the oxygen dissolved in the water, the oxygen gases. Nothing should be deficient. It should be fully suffused with oxygen in all ways, shapes, and forms.